Let's talk about 9 Lives, a criminally underrated trick-taking game. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and it's October, so we're talking about trick-taking games all month for Trick or Treat, and this one is a classic for me. It's one that I feel like if you enjoy trick takers, that everyone should be talking about. 9 Lives by Allplay. Well, in fact, at the time that this game came out, Allplay was boardgametables.com, but they have changed their name since. Here is the box for 9 Lives. It is a cat-themed trick-taking game. This is a game that works for between 3 and 4 players. There's no 2-player version of the game. It's 3 or 4 players. You can play a game of this with kids aged 11 and up. Younger kids, if they understand trick takers, can get it, but there's some prediction here that might make things a bit more difficult for the very young ones. And games take about 30 minutes to play. Let's take a deeper look at 9 Lives by Allplay. 9 Lives is a light trick-taking game, and it's classic in terms of, it's just like those old-fashioned kind of trick-taking games. There's a board here, but what you're doing on that board is just keeping track of how many tricks you expect you're going to win. There's a second circular board that just keeps track of points, but it's not like Sail where you're trying to do something by winning tricks. It's not like Cat in the Box where you're trying to place counters on a board in a way that's going to earn you more points. This is classic trick-taking. And it is a game where you're trying to earn the most points in 4 rounds. So you play this game over 4 rounds, and you earn points by correctly predicting how many tricks you're going to win. You'll get 4 points, 2 points, or negative points, depending on what your prediction looks like. So, of course, I've upgraded the components here. So I've got these wooden cats instead of the cardboard ones that came in the box. But what you're going to do in this game, of course, you're going to deal out a hand of 9 cards. And then once the players have looked over their cards, they're going to take their cat and place the cat on the rug here to indicate how many tricks they expect that they're going to win. You can place him, here, I'll lay him down like this so that you can see him a little bit better. This is the upside down cat. The red one was my favorite. You can place him like this horizontally, and that means you're expecting that you're going to win either 2 or 6 tricks. And remember, that's a 9-card hand that you're starting with. If you instead place your cat vertically, now you've got an option here. You can win 3 or 7. You can win 4 or 8 tricks in that hand. Now, you're not earning points for each trick you win. You're earning by the prediction here. So because I'm kind of taking a chance with this red cat and only kind of guessing that I might win 2 or 6 hands of the game, I could earn 4 points if I'm correct here. This cat that's covering up 2 spaces on the rug instead is only going to earn 2 points if they're correct, because they're not taking as big of a risk. There is some strategy too, though, to your predictions, because especially at 4 players, you can block off spaces on that rug. So you're allowed to place your cat on either side. But if I've placed them like this, and the 3rd player maybe covers things up in this way, now the 4th player, the final one who's predicting, the last player who's going to take their turn, can no longer guess that he might get 2 or 6, or he might get 3 or 7 tricks in that round. So they're going to have to guess 1 or 5, or go all the way up to the top and guess 4 or 8. You're starting that prediction process from the first player, then you're going clockwise around the table. The first player marker is a ball of yarn because, of course, we are talking about cats. And like I said, you've got a 9-card hand. And classic trick-taking, again, 1 suit is trump. The purple paw cards are trump. So it's a must-follow game. If I play a red card, other players have to play a red card if they have one. If they don't have one, they can play a card of any color, and the highest purple card is going to win. If there are no purples and they're all red, the highest red card is going to win. The cards are numbered from 1 to 9, and they have these kind of fun geometric drawings of cats, different species of cats. Here's a Siamese cat here. So they've got these fancy looking cats. These are beautiful cards. And like I said, it's a must follow Trick Taker. But what makes this a classic for me is, well, first of all, I do like trick-taking games where you're trying to predict how many hands you're going to win, because then the other players can kind of mess with you and maybe make you win too many or prevent you from winning as many as you thought you would. But here's the other, I think, amazing mechanism of this game is that the backs of the cards are colored the same color as the suit. So players are going to be holding those 9 cards in their hand. All the other players are going to know not the numbers of the cards that they have, but what color they have. So I know how many trump cards the other players have in their hand, which is going to dictate both how many hands I think I'm going to win, but also which cards I might play on each of my turns. Another interesting mechanism to the game is that each time you win a trick, so if these are the 4 cards that were played, the red 8 was led, we've got a couple of players who didn't have any reds in their hand, another player threw the 6 because that was the only one that they had maybe, but this purple, the trump card, the Siamese cat in this case, is going to win this trick. The winner of the trick then has to take one of the other cards, not the card that they played, not the card that they won with, but they have to take one of these other cards into their hand. Maybe they're going to take this blue 7, and then the rest of the cards get discarded. So as you're winning tricks, you're taking more cards into your hand, so you're not losing the cards. You're collecting cards, but they tend to be cards that maybe aren't cards that you want because they're not the winning card of that hand, or maybe you're purposely trying to take cards that will allow you to lose later hands so that you don't win too many. But there's another wrinkle in the game. Not only are the players aware of what suits you have in your hand, but as you pick up those cards when you win a trick, they know exactly the number that you have as well if they can remember it. The round continues until one player runs out of cards, and then everything wraps up and you look at how many tricks each person has won. So you're using these cubes to kind of indicate, okay, well, the red cat, my favorite upside down cat, has won 2 tricks, so his cube is going to be that far, and that's really how you determine how many points you're going to win or lose in the game. Now here I've placed them so that all of the players have won, but if instead the poor yellow cat maybe won 1 too many, the numbers here wrap around, remember? So it goes 1 to 4 and then 5 to 8. But if the yellow cat won too many, instead of gaining points, they're going to lose 1 point at the end of the round. Most points after 4 rounds wins the game. What skills are you working on when you play this kind of a trick-taking game like 9 Lives? Well, this is a game that places, I think, really huge demands on working memory. Working memory being the whiteboard in your mind where you keep information so that you can juggle it somehow. And there is a lot of information that you can keep track of in the game. You're looking at the cards that the other players have played. You're looking at the backs of their cards so you can see what cards they have in their hand. You're trying to remember which cards they've picked up from each trick that they've won. So there's a lot of information that you can juggle, and remembering that information is going to be really helpful when you're trying to make sure that you win or lose the right number of tricks. It's a game that, like most trick takers, it's helpful if you can count cards, but because you get that extra information of cards that have been picked up and which suits are in each player's hand, it makes that task a little bit easier. So really amazing practice when you think about it for other kinds of activities like this where you're trying to keep track of cards that have been played, cards that have been picked up. The other thing that you're doing in this game, well, at the beginning of each of those 4 rounds, you're predicting based on the cards in your hand how many of those tricks you think that you're going to win. And I do like games where you're there's some probability there and you're trying to use your understanding of probability to make some prediction. The other thing I think for younger kids that happens with a game like this is that younger kids are going to want to win. They want to win those hands. However, they're going to get some feedback if they win too many, so they may sometimes purposely have to lose, or they might overestimate how many of those things that they're going to win. And I really like games like that for younger kids where they have to, you're kind of having mixed feelings about what you're doing. You want to win as many as you can, but you can't overestimate how many you're going to win. And sometimes you're going to throw a hand on purpose because you don't want to win too many of them. So I think that's a good kind of emotional skill to practice when you're playing a game like this. But primarily, we are talking about working memory and card counting. Final thoughts about 9 Lives. Well, like I said at the beginning, this is a game that I think really is underrated. It's one that I only heard about it really by chance when I was listening to a podcast about trick-taking games. So I added it to my Allplay order when I backed Sail on Kickstarter. But this is really a classic game, and bidding on how many tricks you're going to win is a super fun mechanism. But the fact that you know what suits are in each player's hand, wow, does that ever add some extra strategy? It does make things a little bit less random when you think about it, because you know whether or not a player is going to have to follow what color card you play. And because it kind of reduces the complexity of the card counting, because you have that little bit of extra information, it's a really good introduction, I think, to those classic trick-taking games where you do have to keep track of those numbers of cards. It is kind of fun and funny that because the winner of a trick has to pick up one of those cards, it does make it a little bit harder to shed a suit. One of the things often you try to do in these trick-taking games is get rid of one color so that you have some flexibility. If that color is lead, you can play anything you want and win or lose, depending on whether you have a trump card or not. So it does make it a little bit harder, a little bit trickier, no pun intended, to do that. If there's a downside, and really there's not very much that I mean, I like everything about the game, you do kind of have to get used to, or I found I had to get used to the art style, this geometric style of all of these different cats. But really, because it's not flexible in terms of the number of players, it's 3 or 4 players only. And so for some people, that makes it a tough sell. If it's just me and my wife, I couldn't get her to play this one because we need at least 3 players. And I also think it would play best at 4, because then you get the strategy of blocking off spaces here on that rug, so that the 4th player is going to get stuck potentially with a number of hands that they really won't be able to win. And that means they're going to lose some points. So, I mean, what can I say about 9 Lives, except that this is definitely one of my favorites in terms of trick-taking. Now, it's not silly and crazy like Thrones of Valeria. It is more strategic. It is more of that classic game. There's one trump suit that doesn't change from hand to hand. It's always the purple card, so that makes it easy to keep track of. It's more predictable and strategic in that way. This really is a classic trick-taking game like Hearts, but it has a few little extra wrinkles that really made it fun. We had a lot of laughs playing 9 Lives, so strong recommendation from me if you do like those kinds of trick-taking games. If you have any suggestions for other trick takers maybe that I should try, you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comments section below the video, or of course you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. The previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. So we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.